Going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Kevin, Stevie P coming at you today. Dan is on vacation, so we hope he has a good time out there. But it's just us bringing the podcast today. What's going on, Steve?
What's up?
All right, so today we are going to, talk a little bit about preseason week 2, give you a news breakdown. Have a little segment where we're going to do our top 5 running back handcuffs, and then we're going to break down another draft that we had with our listeners. So, we're going to get into all that. But first, don't forget to check us out on our website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thandinchesff.com. For a bunch of content, you got articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our draft guide, which features the decision maker, which is a tiered out guideline for 3 different styles of drafting. You got one for your risky drafter, one for your conservative drafter, and then you have the tweener, which is basically a mix of both. The draft guide also features the cheat codes, which is a visual breakdown of every team's stats from last year. It's a great tool to prepare for your drafts, and it's the same tool we use to give you information on the podcast. So check that out, and also look for us on the Fantasy Life app. We'll be doing start-sit questions throughout the year, and we're looking into doing a keeper question segment on there as well. And if you're listening, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. So let's get into the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, so Jimmy Garoppolo completed just 1 of 6 passes for 0 yards and 1 interception in the Niners' second preseason game on Monday. Mike Florio reports Antonio Brown has filed another grievance against the NFL, preventing him from wearing his old helmet. This dude is just losing his mind. Mm-hmm. The Miami Herald's Barry Jackson doesn't believe linebacker Kiko Alonso is a lock to make the Dolphins' 53-man roster. ESPN's Mike DiRocco reports sophomore DJ Chark has been the most impressive receiver at Jaguars camp this summer. Patriots released punter Ryan Allen. Derrick Henry resumed practicing on Monday. Colts placed running back Deontay Foreman on injured reserve with a torn bicep. Dude can't catch a break. NFL.com's Ian Rappaport reports, and say that 3 times in a row. Darius Geis is expected to play in Thursday's preseason game against the Falcons. Julian Edelman was spotted warming up for Monday's practice. Free agent wide receiver Dontrell Inman will visit with the Lions. Mike Florio reports Antonio Brown has returned to practice. Dolphins coach Brian Flores said Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't a lock to start week 1. Agent Drew Rosenhaus expects Antonio Brown to join the Raiders soon. Golden Tate is in the concussion protocol. Texans rookie left guard Titus Howard suffered a broken finger in the second preseason game. DK Metcalf will have surgery this week, but isn't expected to be sidelined too long. Le'Veon Bell will not play in the preseason. The Athletics' Mark Caboli believes rookie wide receiver Deontay Johnson is not going to play early in the season. NFL Network's, we'll skip over that. It's another Antonio Brown. We're just going to skip over Antonio. We've done enough of that. Yeah. Bills released injured cornerback E.J. Gaines. Patriots placed Josh Gordon on a non-football injury list. Patriots released Dontrell Inman. So, ESPN's Adam Schefter said Case Keenum is now tracking to be Washington's opening day starting quarterback. Former Bears and Bengals running back Cedric Benson has passed away at age 36. According to Ben Volen of the Boston Globe, the Titans' starting quarterback job looks surprisingly wide open. Mm-hmm. Raiders coach John Gruden said Antonio Brown will took all the reps in our walkthrough. Andrew Luck was recorded warming up prior to Indianapolis' Week 2 preseason game. Jaguars activated Marquise Lee from the PUP list, and that is pretty much it for the Eagles. Signed Josh McCown as their backup. That's pretty much it. Anything you want to get into, Steve, from the news? I think nothing really crazy.
Yeah, we kind of just hashing out stuff that we've already heard. Nothing like super major, but the Marcus Mariota news, I guess, is kind of surprising. But we did
very surprising because he looked pretty good in their second game. He looked pretty good on that drive. The guy threw the touchdown to Delaney Walker. But hey,
yeah. I mean, to me, he, was a guy that I think they, after the end of last season, they kind of were a little bit sour on because just him, how many games he missed, and it seems like he misses a couple of games every single year. So when they signed Ryan Tannehill, it was kind of, to me, like, I mean, like, if you're gonna, it's not like they signed him, they traded for him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was kind of like, that might be writing on the wall that they're not happy with what's his name, Marcus Mariota.
Right.
So that could be, when that happened, I thought that could be something to look out for, and now, it's just coming to fruition that is the deal. So, Marcus Mariota better start playing some ball.
Yeah, you're not lying. I like that. I think it puts a little bit of pressure on him, and to me, pressure is good for a quarterback because honestly, if you get to see what your quarterback really has. If he's going to buckle under pressure, then that's obviously not going to be a quarterback that you want. And if he thrives and uses this situation to motivate himself, it could be good for everybody. So, I like them putting a little pressure on Mariota. This is his fifth year, is it not? Is this?
Yes, this is them picking up because
He's
it's
on
the
it
same thing with Jameis Winston. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is his fifth year option year, so he will be a free agent after this year. So, like I said, put the pressure on them, see what you got, and if they have to move on,
It is what it is.
Yeah. I think we've talked about the Antonio Brown stuff enough. That's kind of
beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the Darius Geist news. I just told you that the other, before we got on here. I want to see what Darius Geist has. I'm glad he's getting to play in that third preseason game because he looked really good last year in the preseason, and unfortunately he got hurt in the very first game after like 5-6 carries.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to see if he's able to keep a lot of that speed and just work his way to a successful season.
Yeah, if you were watching that game last season when he got hurt, I don't think anybody even knew he was hurt because if you watched, he kind of, when he got tackled out of bounds, it looked like he fell on it a little bit weird, and then everybody was like, he basically jumped right back up. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was down for 5 minutes injury or anything like that. You know what I mean? He kind of just bounced back up and went to the sideline, and next thing we knew, he tore his ACL. It's like, what? Like, really? And it was kind of just a freak accident, I believe. So like I said, like in this player profile, I actually wrote that he reminds me a lot of Ezekiel Elliott in his running style because he looks to punish you first, and those are kind of running backs that I kind of like, guys that are shifty but look to deal the punishment too. So those are guys that are not long for the NFL, but are, when they do play, they put up some stats. So I think he could be a guy that could really do some damage in the NFL. And if this is the year where we're going to actually see that come to fruition, then, I'm super excited to see it.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's pretty much all we need to talk about with the news. Nothing really anymore to get in depth with. As far as week 2 of the preseason, you see anything you liked that you want to mention or any standouts?
We kind of talked about it the other day. I liked what I saw with the Ravens. Lamar Jackson looked really good. Completing some passes, moving the offense. I thought Justice Hill looked good in that game. It was just, to me, the Ravens look like an offense that we might be able to rely on this year. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of people weren't thinking that going into this preseason. So, I'm really excited to see what goes on next week in the rehearsal, her rehearsal game, to see how that offense moves, and see if they use some of the plays that they're going to be using during the season.
Yeah. I thought James Washington looked really good again. And Deontay Johnson, who was, I believe, their second or third round draft pick this year, he looked really good as well. Moncrief in the game had a fumble, but there's been good things coming out about him. Ben might be a quarterback that we're like underrating because he obviously has some talent out there, and you know if these guys are going to be making plays the way they've shown in the preseason, we're underrating Ben, thinking that just because Antonio's not there, it's kind of a lost season for Ben Roethlisberger. He's still got three, four really good weapons. Also in that game, it looked like Connor kind of had the whole first team workload. Jalen Samuels kind of came in, with the second team, which is kind of opposite the way we were thinking. We kind of thought it might be a little bit of a split. So that'll be interesting to look at next week and see if that changes it at all, or if they just go with Connor. Like I said, Mariota looked good. I'm actually surprised that that news that the quarterback job is wide open, because they honestly on that drive kept really hurting themselves with penalties and getting pushed back, and he kept picking up long third down conversions, and I was really surprised, because I'm not a big fan of Mariota. I did not think that he just really has underwhelmed me in his career, and I was kind of surprised, because he looked pretty good.
Yeah, for me, there's not really too many other games that I was like, wow, this looks like something that I really want to hit on. Once again, I thought that what's his name, David Montgomery, didn't really. I wanted to see him play, and he didn't really get any play in this game. I was kind of excited to see what he would do, especially coming off of what he did last week, and they didn't really, give him really any run at all. So I was a little bit surprised about that, but
I think that was probably a good sign for David Montgomery, though.
Yeah, holding him out that he's the number one. And we kind of knew that. I mean, we kind of knew he was going to be the number one. We just don't know how much work he's going to get. So I just wanted to see, I wanted to see him come out first and be the guy. You know what I mean? But I understand the first team really didn't play at all in that game. So, but then again, Daniel Jones went out there. He had 2 fumbles this week, which they didn't look all that great, but once again, he looked pretty good. Well, I think he was like, what was it, 10 for 14 or something like that?
14, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think he had over 150 yards passing. He looked good.
And one of them was a easy drop to the tight end, so this guy, he looks like he could be a pro quarterback. Everybody knocked the Giants, and they might be right. They might be right. I mean, he looks really good.
It's not the craziest thing that's ever happened in the NFL.
No, definitely not.
So the Buffalo Bills is another game that I watched basically in the first half of. And I thought Josh Allen looked good. I thought they moved the offense well. I thought Matt Barkley actually looked really good. He's actually really been surprising me, even since last season. When he's come in and played in Buffalo, he looks good. But I would have liked them to have given Devin Singletary more carries in that game than they did. I think they gave him only like 1 or 2 carries in that game. He didn't really do much with. He had 2 catches in that game. He had like a 6-yard catch and then like an 18-yard catch. He looked really fluid catching the ball. The one thing that stuck out to me is how much they used Cole Beasley on the first 2 drives.
Yes.
Yeah, Cole Beasley was literally just targeted after targeted after targeted, which was good to see. He was getting open and Allen was hitting them. So, that was exciting to see for an offense that really had trouble, getting first downs last year, which is why they were off the field as much as they were.
Yeah. He peppered Beasley. That's
Yeah,
the word that we use now, right? Peppered.
peppered.
Yeah, Beasley was definitely peppered in that game.
Yeah.
Um, I did. I agree with you. I thought Josh Allen looked good. Um, a lot. I've listened to a few podcasts today, and they have all mentioned it, so I'll mention it. Malcolm Brown did not play at all for the Rams, and that almost to me assures that he is Todd Gurley's handcuff. And we've basically been telling you that since we started podcasting back in June,
Yep.
that Darrell Henderson, you're wasting your time drafting this guy in the 9th round because
handcuff.
he's just a scab back. He's not a handcuff. He's not somebody that can handle a full workload. So kudos to us. We've been telling you this for a month or two.
Yeah.
All right, so now I think we probably could get into the top 5 handcuffs. You want to start with one of yours, and then I'll go with one of mine.
Yes.
And we may have similarities. So if we have similarities, I'll just throw them out if they're on the same list.
Yeah. So for me, my number 5 was Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. I really like the 49ers backfield. So, we know that there's not going to be Jerick McKinnon at least till week 1. We haven't heard if he's going to be put on the PUP or, be put on IR or what they're doing. We do know that he's not practicing, so it's highly, highly unlikely that he is going to be the guy that they go to, starting the season. So, to me, a great handcuff situation. We saw what Matt Breida did last year in that offense. So, if something were to happen to Tevin Coleman, I think Breida would be in line for a very big workload, and definitely a guy I want to handcuff with Coleman. And I just, you can, and the thing that I love about this handcuff is you can use him, throughout the year. It's not something that you have to, you have a bye week. I think you feel really confident about putting Breida in, especially closer to, if you have a bye week 4 or something like that with one of your running backs. As a guy that I definitely could see, you putting in there and feeling confident that he's going to give you some points.
Yeah, Breida's on my list too. Exact same thing. We've been telling you about this San Francisco backfield. With Jerick McKinnon not there, it kind of lessens the decision making. You kind of can just draft Coleman and take Breida. Breida right now is going in the 10th round. So when I think of handcuff, I'm basically going anybody in the double-digit rounds. So, Breida to me is definitely one of the top 5 handcuffs in the NFL.
Definitely.
All right, so I'm actually going to say Jalen Samuels. I think with Connor, looking like he was going to be the workhorse there. Jalen Samuels is still, I think, going to get a little bit of work in the passing game. And if Connor goes down, I think Jalen Samuels can step in. He looks really, really good in this preseason. And, Pittsburgh has such a good passing game that it distracts from, it takes away from the run game. Like, it takes the attention away from the run game and, opens up a lot of running lanes. And that offensive line is just great to run behind.
Yeah, I agree. Jalen Samuel is somebody that showed last year when, Connor went down. He was very productive. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He's a converted tight end from, college. And I'll tell you what, he looks good as a running back. I really like the way he looks when he carries the ball. He doesn't go down on first contact. He fights for every yard. He's a little bit shifty. I wouldn't say he's like super what's
Elusive.
the word? Yeah, super elusive. But he in this Pittsburgh offense, you don't really need to be super elusive. You know what I mean? Just hit the hole and go. You know what I mean? This offensive line is very good, and they've had passing games in the past that are going to, open up the field. So I really, really like Jalen Samuels as a handcuff. So for me, I didn't want to really put Miles Sanders on here, but I am going to do it because, and the reason I'm going to do it is because the other day in one of our listener leagues, we had a listener take Miles in the 4th round. That is really early for Miles. He is not could he take the job week 2, week 3? Yes, 100%. I think so. But I don't know if I'm taking him in round 4, knowing that right now Jordan Howard is the starter. You know what I mean? I think they are going to use Jordan Howard. I even wrote it in his player bio. I think that between round 4, 5, and week 4, 5, and 6 is when he starts to pull away from this committee. But in the beginning of the season, to not know that he is 100% the guy, he's a handcuff. You know what I mean? Like, he right at this point is the handcuff because Jordan Howard is the guy on the depth chart. You know what I mean? He's the number 1 guy on the depth chart right now. You know what I mean? Could he definitely take the job from him? Yes, I 100% see that. But at this point, he is the handcuff. So Miles Sanders was my number 4 on this list.
Yeah, I didn't have Miles on the list just because he's really actually being drafted above Jordan Howard. So
yeah,
it's kind of hard to handcuff him. Handcuff those 2 guys because you wind up taking 2 guys in the same backfield in your first 7 rounds.
Yeah.
That's kind of, to me, it's pretty difficult to do.
Yeah.
So my next guy, I'm just going to knock these 3 guys out. It's only going to be considered 1 handcuff, but Tony Pollard, Malcolm Brown, and Justin Jackson. All 3 of those guys basically are great handcuffs, knowing Gurley's injury situation and, the situation going on with Zeke and Melvin Gordon and their holdouts. You're drafting handcuffs because if your starter isn't going to play, you can throw this guy in here. Well, if you draft Zeke, you might want to get Tony Pollard because it looks like he's going to be their go-to back while he's dealing with his contract. And to me, Justin Jackson is much better pickup than Austin Eckler. I think Justin Jackson in the 12th round is going to give you just as much, if not more, than Austin Eckler does in the 6th. And, Malcolm Brown, we just got done saying, he looks like he's the surefire handcuff behind Gurley. And, if you draft Gurley, you may want to go grab Malcolm Brown just because, he looks like the handcuff and Darrell Henderson does not.
Definitely. I agree with all 3. I think all 3 guys are players that, you're going to want to have on your fantasy team. If if you're one of those people that really likes to handcuff your running backs, all 3 of those guys you are almost must-haves. You almost can't not have them. Me, I'm
That's why I put them all together like that, because I think right now, if you're going to draft any one of those 3 guys, you almost have to go get one of these 3 because these 3 to back them up because. That could be your situations in week 1, not with Gurley necessarily, but with Zeke and Gordon, you might be starting one of these 2 guys in week 1.
Yeah, definitely. So, definitely guys, for me, I'm definitely more risk averse. So I don't really like handcuffing my running backs only because I feel like I'm a good enough drafter to take guys that are going to contribute to my team. And I feel like I'm just wasting a roster spot when I handcuff. But I could definitely see in the Todd Gurley situation, we all know what his knees about. Justin Jackson is definitely, no brainer, because, I don't know. They're talking about 50-50 split there. And Justin Jackson, to me, is definitely going to get the goal line work. And that's the guy I want of that committee. So, to me, it's definitely like those 2 guys, especially are the no brainers. If I was going to handcuff, I would definitely do that. All right, so my 3rd guy, I really had a tough time trying to figure out which one I wanted to put here, so I'm going to do what Kev did. I'm just going to combine them both. Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, and then Sony Michel and Damian Williams. Both of these guys. Say it again?
Damian Harris.
I'm sorry, Damian Harris. These 2 guys here, just, Sony Michel, we know that if he were to be out, James White is not going to get that work. Last year he got that work when he was out because, they didn't really have much other than that, which is another reason why I think they got Damian Williams in the first place. They wanted a bigger back that if Sony Michel is not there, they can just continue their offense just the way it is. You know what I mean? We all know Rex Burkhead is a good football player, but he is not the guy that's going to carry a heavy workload. He's also injury prone himself. He's always banged up and all that other stuff. So, I think they felt that they needed to have that same dynamic in their offense, and which is why they went and got, Harris. And then Alexander Madison, just a big bruising back that I don't really think Madison is all that great. Just watching his tape, he to me is just he's a plotter. But Dalvin Cook is always hurt. He's always hurt. So, Alexander Madison of all those guys that we just talked about, even the 5 guys' names that we just talked about, he has as chance as any of them is getting some starting work with if Cook goes down, which is not crazy to think about Cook going down.
No, not at all. And actually, I haven't really been impressed with Alexander Madison at all. And his,
he's looked terrible.
Yeah. So, but if he's going to be their starting running back, with Cook, if Cook gets hurt and he winds up being their starting running back, I mean, he's a no-brainer, and that's what this handcuff situation is. All right, to me, all right, this might be a little bit of a surprise one, but I'm going to go with Darwin Thompson. I don't think Carlos Hyde is going to make the team. They will lose. They will save $1 million on their salary cap if they release him, if they cut him. So, to me, Damian Harris looked a little bit bulked up, and he obviously is going to be their starter. He got all the first team work in their game, and it was five carries, and they basically put him on ice. And then, for the rest of the game, Carlos Hyde had a fumble. Now, Carlos Hyde doesn't necessarily have fumbling issues. I think I heard that he's only got 13 fumbles in his whole career. So it's not like he has a major fumbling issue. But, to me, Darwin Thompson looks electric. And if I'm getting Damian Williams, I would definitely want to handcuff him with Darwin Thompson because I think Darwin Thompson has great playmaking ability, and he's showing it in the preseason.
Yeah, and Andy Reid is talking him up. And normally when Andy Reid starts talking up running backs, watch out to the starter. You guys can remember in Philly when Westbrook, took the job from Staley. It started becoming a loud knocking. This guy is coming, and I feel like this is the kind of the same thing. It's a situation where, it's. I don't know. I think this kid looks really good, and I think they're really confident in him. And we saw just even 2 years ago, with Hunt, when he, as a rookie, we were hearing that same knocking, and he ended up taking the job. Spencer Ware ended up getting hurt.
Yeah.
But regardless to whether that injury happened, I wrote it in his player profile. I think he was going to take that job anyway. I think that was just kind of their excuse to be like, we get to start this guy now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think eventually that was going to happen anyway, and that could be the case here. So. Definitely a guy that you could take as a handcuff and could eventually become the starter, and you're going to be super happy you took him. So I was going to go the super easy route and take Devin Singletary. I'm not going to do that because we've been talking him up, but for me, over in Indianapolis, I still think Jordan Wilkins is going to be the guy if Marlon Mack was to go down. I know they have Spencer Ware over there. He's asking for his release.
They signed Sharkandrick West today too, so Frank Reich's just getting all them old Kansas City guys.
Exactly. So for me, Sharkandrick West never showed anything in Kansas City, so I'm not really worried about it. I think they're just doing that for depth, just to try to figure out what they're going to do. But I think Wilkins will be the guy to carry the heavier workload if Marlon Mack was to go down. So I don't know how much I'm handcuffing, Marlon Mack at this point because of all the signings and everything. But between those two guys, if Mack were to go down, I think the heavy workload would go probably to Wilkins, and Nyheim Hines is the guy that you can take in a PPR league and definitely feel confident that he's going to get you some kind of points because, I think he's going to be used regardless of whether Marlon Mack is in there or not. So he's a guy with a safe role in Indianapolis. So if you wanted the handcuff to Marlon Mack, I would go Wilkins. But if you wanted, a guy that's going to get you some consistent points, I think Nyheim Hines is the guy that you should definitely have on your bench.
All right, and last but not least, for me, Giovanni Bernard. When Joe Mixon went out last year, Giovanni was very productive. I think in the 2 games that Mixon missed last year, in both of those games, he had a combined 90 yards in both of them. He scored 3 touchdowns in the 2 games. I think he had 5 catches and 4 catches, and he's obviously a PPR guy. And there was people were worried about him coming into the year that he was a potential cut, and apparently the Bengals are going totally opposite. They want to keep him around as their backup to Joe Mixon because he showed that he's a very good backup. So to me, if you're going to draft Joe Mixon, I would try to get Giovanni Bernard if you're into handcuffing, because I think Giovanni Bernard is one of, if not the best handcuff to own.
Definitely. I agree with that. Giovanni Bernard, every time he stepped into that role, he's always puts up fantasy numbers. You know what I mean? He always is the guy that produces in that role. And if something were to happen to Joe Mixon, I mean, it seems like every year something happens to Joe Mixon where he misses a game or 2 here and there. So in that role, Giovanni Bernard has shown that he can do that. So I'll definitely be happy with that. The last guy that I want to talk about is Mike Davis, because I think he is the forgotten man in the Chicago Bears offense. I really do. I do think he's going to be used this season, which is why I'm not super high on David Montgomery, because I don't think they signed him for, I believe it was like close to $5 million, something like that. I think he does everything that David Montgomery does, just not as good. I definitely think Montgomery is the more talented of the two, but Davis showed last year that, when he stepped in for Carson, when he missed those 2 games last year, he played well. He looked good. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He runs hard. He may not have the power that Carson has, because he's just not that kind of, that doesn't have that kind of strength. But, he's not scared to lower his shoulder and try to run you over. He's pretty shifty for a guy his size. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, which is something I always like out of any handcuff that I pick up. So Mike Davis is a guy I think that's being forgotten by a lot of fantasy drafters. And if you take David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen is not a guy that you're going to handcuff him with. Mike Davis is the handcuff.
Yeah, totally agree. 100%. If you get Montgomery, Mike Davis is the guy that you would want to handcuff. Like Steve said, he did good last year when he had to fill in for Chris Carson, and he still could potentially be a touchdown type back if they decide that Montgomery, they want to go away from Montgomery in the goal line. So to me, Mike Davis definitely one of the top 12 15 handcuffs that we just gave you guys. We wanted to do 5 each, and we both threw out like 8.
Yeah, I think. Well, I didn't mind handling a couple of more, because I just feel like people who like to handcuff, you kind of want to know those guys, and I think some of the guys we mentioned are people are not, they're not even thinking about them at all.
No.
Especially in the drafts we've been in. I haven't really seen Mike Davis been drafted. Now we're starting to see Thompson get drafted, but Harris, we've gone a couple of drafts where Harris didn't get drafted. There's a lot of these guys that have not been drafted. Giovanni Bernard, I've never seen drafted this offseason. Even in our mocks. You know what I mean? So,
nope.
These are guys I feel like, you guys should know about and be well aware of.
Yep. All right. So we are going to break down another podcast league that we did now. We talked about this one a little bit. I think we got into the first 6 picks on everybody's team, and I think we're just going to try and run through this really quick and just give everybody a grade. We don't really got to talk about them too much because we've kind of been breaking these drafts down frequently. It gives you guys like an understanding of where players are going and what your team could potentially look like. So with that being said, the first team, Troy Nelson, 39. He's got Phillip Rivers at quarterback, Saquon Barkley and Damian Williams as his running backs, Keenan Allen, Kenny Galladay, Tyler Lockett as his receivers. Is a 3-receiver, 2-flex league. So he's got Keenan Allen, Kenny Galladay, Tyler Lockett. He's got O.J. Howard as his tight end. He's got Darius Geis and D.D. Westbrook as his flexes. And he's got Darrell Henderson, Tyrell Williams, Ito Smith, McCole Hardman, Delaney Walker, and Derek Carr. I really like this dude's starting lineup.
Yeah.
I really like his starting lineup. And, I'm not a big fan of Darrell Henderson, but Tyrell Williams actually looked pretty good in the game I saw against the Cardinals. That is the Cardinals D. We kind of said that about Josh Jacobs, so you got to kind of temper expectations. But, to me, his bench is a little lacking because Ito Smith I'm not a big fan of. We don't know what's going to come of McCole Hardman, although they were using him a little bit the other day. He looked pretty good in his role, I would say, as well. But I love Delaney Walker. I've been preaching to you guys about Delaney and Derek Carr, as a backup. I will give this guy a B+ only because his bench is not very deep.
Yeah. I agree. I think this is a B+ team. I love Allen. I love Galladay. I love Lockett. All three of those wide receivers are great. And to me, they all have top 12 upside. I mean, Lockett, I've been beating the drum for. I just really like the guy. His, yards per route run is a big stat for me, and he was great last year. Kenny Galladay, I just think he is super talented, and I think he could be very good this year. I'm just going to leave it at that. Damian Williams, we just talked about him where, he's making me a little bit nervous because of his not having shown that he can be a 16-week guy. But, Saquon is awesome. And, you do have that upside. Phillip Rivers is a safe quarterback. He's not going to finish outside of the top, 14. O.J. Howard, love him. And like Kev said, I don't really like your bench. I like, Dice. If he, shows out this week, I think you're going to be very confident and probably using him as one of your flex positions. But, your two flex guys I think I like. And that's about it. The rest of the guys on your team, Delaney Walker is just, I think, a safe player. And, Cody Latimer has been showing that he can play ball, in the preseason so far. So, yeah.
He's got Cody Latimer?
Yeah, he's got Cody Latimer. Yep.
I don't even see him.
Yeah, Cody Latimer right on his bench. Or maybe he just picked him up. Maybe that just popped up. But
that might have popped up. I don't even see him. All right.
Yeah, Cody Latimer. He popped up. He's on here for me. Yeah, it says
right.
Ito Smith, Henderson, Latimer, and Walker.
All
right. So
he's not on. So the next team is Little Hill. You want to give Little Hill's team?
Yeah, so we have Aaron Rodgers, Alvin Kamara, Justin Jackson, Adam Thielen, Larry Fitzgerald, Emmanuel Sanders. What is this? Geoff Swam. Oh, okay. The Jaguars tight end. Latavius Murray, Jordan.
Jeff Swam,
yeah. Melvin Gordon, Justice Hill, Josh Gordon, Devontae Parker, Michael Gallup, and AJ Green. Man. Your running back one is amazing. I would not be happy with Justin Jackson as my number 2. Latavius Murray and Jordan Howard, that's a little rough. I don't know. This one's a little bit harder for me. I mean, I like that you have. It
is a hard team because his tight end is really weak.
Yeah, really bad. Like you can go on the waiver wire and pick up, Jeff Swam, somebody better than Jeff Swam. You know what I mean? Like I don't. Man, this is tough because you got AJ Green, who is going to be out. Melvin Gordon hasn't even, figured out if he even wants to play football yet. Josh Gordon is just coming back to football after, a long time of being out. Devontae Parker, I've given up on completely. Michael Gallup, I think will be all right. Justice Hill, you guys know I love him. Oh, man.
Sanders is a good.
I gotta give you a C- on this team, bro. This is not good. Because I would think with I know you went Kamara and you probably took Gordon. I don't know where you took Gordon, but
3-2.
3-2. Okay, so I'm assuming your first 3 picks were Kamara, Thielen, and Gordon. Is that was the first 3?
Yeah. Yep.
and then
and AJ Green, and then Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, to me, if you're
yeah, you
drafting
went
if you're going to
super
draft
risky,
AJ
bro.
Green, you can't. If you're drafting AJ Green, you can't draft
No,
Aaron Rodgers right
no.
after. Like, you got to wait on your quarterback because
Yeah, you need to fill your roster, bro.
you need to fill the rest of your roster. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald, we love, but
And
you know,
I'm the risky guy. I'm the
yeah,
I'm the one that loves risk, and I just feel like this dream is like you went balls to the wall risk,
yeah,
which
you know, Emmanuel
oh
Sanders
man,
is coming off an Achilles. Josh Gordon is just activated, and now he's on a non-football injury list. Yeah,
yeah,
I would go see. Um,
yeah,
like I said, you can't. I wouldn't draft the quarter. If you're going to go high on quarterback, then you got to be less risky at your other positions because you got to fill your team, and you know
yeah.
you're gonna have to.
And the other thing, Kev, if you look at this team, you got to remember, guys, like this is a PPR league.
Yeah,
You went Justin Jackson, Latavius Murray, Jordan Howard. Those guys don't catch the ball at all, like
huh.
at all. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna draft like this, if you're gonna draft a team like the way this team is constructed, where you want to take a lot of chance, you need to get those PPR backs. You need to
Yeah,
get those guys that are gonna catch 30, 40, 50 balls just to give you some points every week. Because Justin Jackson, if they don't get on the goal line, I don't think he's getting too much work, and he's not getting any passing game work. Latavius Murray's the same thing. Like you were praying for a touchdown from these guys, and if they don't give you a touchdown, you're in trouble.
yep,
So
and Jordan Howard.
yeah, and Jordan Howard. So, I like your starting lineup. If you knew all these guys were starting, if you had Melvin Gordon and
Except for Jeff Swain.
yeah, you know what I mean. So I'm definitely like a C minus on this team. This is
Yeah.
a little too risky for my blood.
That's really risky. If Steve's saying it's a risky team, Steve has drafted Zeke and Dalvin Cook in the same draft.
You ain't lying.
So, yeah.
You ain't lying.
Yeah, I got to go see just because I'm not really a big fan of it, honestly. I mean, even on his bench, Michael Gallup ain't PPR. Josh Gordon's not a PPR guy.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Sanders could be good, but like I said, he's coming off a torn Achilles. So, all right, next up is Bill Lifer, whatever it is. He's got Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback. Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones are his running backs. He's got Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Robbie Anderson. Vance McDonald is his tight end. Derrick Henry, Rashad Penny are his flexes. He's got MVS, Kiki QT, Golden Tate, Jamal Williams, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Albert Wilson as his bench. So, I would like to know. All right, so let me go in here. When he drafted Aaron Jones, I like Leonard Fournette more. I like Freeman more. Marlon Mack was still there. Like I like so many more running backs than Aaron Jones right now, and you took him early in the third round.
Oh, you can go back and see the draft. Where you see that at?
You go to the settings, the little settings bar at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go to draft results.
Oh, look at that.
Click, yeah, and then you click on it.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So to me, I don't like the Aaron Jones pick. Antonio Brown. What the hell's going? Like, we don't know what's going on with Antonio Brown. He is literally a nutcase. I'm not a big fan of going with Mitch. I understand waiting on quarterback, but waiting that long is not a good idea. I do like Godwin, but I think you went early on Godwin with early fourth round or late fourth round. You probably could have waited and got him with your fifth pick, but Derrick Henry is a really good value in the fifth round, even though it's PPR. I do like Rashad Penny. Man, I gotta go C plus. I'm just not a big fan. I think Robbie Anderson could struggle to start the season off. I don't like Mitch. Aaron Jones, I like a lot more values there. Antonio Brown. I do like the first couple players on your bench, but Jimmy Garoppolo looks like he's terrible right now. You You do got Jamal Williams to handcuff with. Aaron Jones is probably another one we can mention. We didn't mention earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But Golden Tate's going to miss 4 games. Yeah, I'm going with C+. I'm not a big fan of this team. It's just not really a team I'm getting excited about.
Yeah, I actually think I disagree. I think I like this team. I don't like your quarterback, but to me in fantasy football, the quarterback position is the easiest to fill or figure out what the hell you're going to do with. So I'm not really worried about your quarterback. I like that you got Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones because I think Christian McCaffrey is super safe. We all know that he probably has 80 catch upside all day long. And, Aaron Jones, if he is definitely the guy and they give him the bulk of the work, which we've been saying forever, yeah, I mean, it could work out for you. I like Antonio Brown. I think he's falling in drafts because everybody thinks he's crazy. And, I still think he's one of the best wide receivers in football. I find it hard to say that he worries me because I think he's just so damn good.
Yeah, I do want to say something about Antonio Brown really quick that I forgot to mention earlier because, like I said, I do listen to a ton of podcasts and I hear all these podcasting hosts or analysts say Antonio Brown is just not the player he was 6 years ago, and if I'm not mistaken, this dude was like a beast last year.
Yes.
It wasn't like he was sucked last year.
No.
He just had a player on his team that did really well too. So maybe it looked like he, but I'm pretty sure Antonio Brown was the number three wide receiver in PPR last year.
Yep.
And to me, I can't stand when they're saying that because he went to the Raiders and he has a different quarterback now, but you can't knock him for that. Yeah. If you're knocking him, you're knocking him because he's got a couple screws loose in his brain. That's why you're knocking him. But to say, Antonio Brown's not the same player he was. Antonio Brown had a great year last year. A year that most wide receivers can only dream about. And I'm tired of hearing people say that he's not the same player that he once was.
Yeah. I mean, to me, Antonio Brown is a number 1 wide receiver. It's not a question. I really like Godwin. I love that you got Anderson as your third wide receiver. I mean, if he was your second, I would be a little nervous, but as your third, I like him. Vance McDonald is the one guy that probably most people are going to tell you that they are, you got him, he's going to be great. I don't agree. I think Vance McDonald's on a team that doesn't use the tight end. Big Ben doesn't use the tight end, like very rarely, and I don't think he's going to start using it crazy more this year because he lost Antonio Brown. I don't feel that way. I feel like he uses the tight end as a
security blanket, and he never uses the security blanket because he will take shots down the field.
Exactly. So, McDonald, makes me nervous. Derrick Henry, Rashad Penny, I like those two guys as your flexes. And then I feel like, you got Jamal Williams because Aaron Jones is always hurt. I mean, Trubisky is a good backup. Kiki QT I love. Albert Wilson has upside. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is, to me, one of the best guys with upside that you can get a little bit later. And Golden Tate, is going to be used when he comes back. So I'm going to give you actually a B+. I like this team. I just don't like your quarterback. And like I said, it's the easiest position to replace.
All right. You want to read the next one? Lower 48 Crusher.
Lower 48 Crusher has Russell Wilson, David Johnson, James White, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson, Jared Cook, Austin Eckler, Tariq Cohen, Dak Prescott, Giovanni Bernard, Jamison Crowder, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, and Jimmy Graham. I like this team. I like this. I mean, I don't like Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson could be really good this year. I just am not drafting him on my teams, and it's not because I think Russell Wilson is a bad quarterback. It's just he makes me nervous with, his efficiency last year was just outrageous, and I don't see that happening again. I mean, maybe he throws for 500 times this year, which brings him up a little bit, but I still don't think his yardage is going to be great. And he doesn't run the ball anymore, so he makes me a little bit nervous. But David Johnson, James White, love those two. Love that pairing. You got a high upside, guy that's going to catch a bunch of balls. And I do think DJ might not have the greatest rushing season of his career, but I definitely think they're going to throw the shit out of the ball to him. So, love that. Mike Evans, I think, could finish as the number 1 wide receiver. I think me and Kevin both said that, and I do believe it. I'm not saying just to say it. I don't like to hear my own voice when I say that. I think Mike Evans has number 1 wide receiver upside, and I anybody that says otherwise, I feel like either hates Mike Evans or just doesn't understand, in a Bruce Arians offense, how much this guy could be used. So Mike Evans has a lot of upside. Amari Cooper is definitely a guy that I feel like as a number 2 is great. I mean, I would love to have Amari Cooper as my number 2. I mean, as a number 1, he makes me nervous, just like Kev said. I don't want him as my number 1, but as a number 2, I like it. Allen Robinson, I think I actually am going to write an article about him this week. I think Allen Robinson is being the forgotten man in fantasy football, and he's a year removed from an ACL injury and, a year plus of, not being of being on an offense that is consistent. You know what I mean? He Matt Nagy is his second year in this offense, and I think Matt Nagy is a very good offensive mind, and I think he's going to use him as a number 1 this year, and I think he could be very good. Cook, to me, he's inside my number 6, but outside the consensus, number 6 tight ends is the guy that I would feel most comfortable with. And then all your other guys I like. I like your bench. Giovanni Bernard, we just talked about him. If something were to happen to this guy, I mean, Mixon, you're good. So I like Crowder as long as he's healthy, which is probably not going to be long. Dak Prescott is a consistent quarterback, and Deebo Samuels to me has a lot of upside. So I like this team. I'm going to give you a B+.
Yeah. Not my favorite team, but not a bad team. Definitely feel like quarterback, you could have been a little better. I love Russell. He's won me a fantasy championship before, but he's not. Their offense now is not built for his fantasy football stats. They are, if he's not throwing for touchdowns, he's going to let you down. David Johnson, I am really nervous about after that game the other day. That line is just terrible. I do think he could get a lot of receptions, like Steve said, because Kyler's going to have to check the ball down and get it out of his hands quick. James White and Tariq Cohen and Austin Eckler, like they're all PPR machines, so they're all gonna fit in good. They all fill out your team really well. I love Mike Evans. I do like Cooper as a number 2. I think he, taking the chance on Cooper is much better when he's your second receiver for me. Probably, let me see who else was behind there.
Real quick, Kev. He dropped Mecole Hardman to pick up Cody Latimer.
Okay.
That's what it was. That's why we were getting confused.
Yeah. So I would have rather probably taken T.Y. Hilton. In a PPR league, I'd probably rather have Diggs and Edelman before I took Cooper. But Cooper does have a ton of upside, so, I'm not big on Allen Robinson. I'm completely opposite of Steve. Jared Cook, I said before, to me, the Saints just haven't used the tight end since Jimmy Graham was there. They signed Kobe Fleener, and everybody thought he was going to be the next coming, and then he never really panned out for anything. So, to me, I do like your bench. I think your bench is pretty good, so I'm going to go with a B- just because I am not a big fan of your first pick. I think you could have went David Johnson, like I said, has been making me nervous. Russell Wilson, just too many guys that are not my favorite players. So yeah, I'll go to B-.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read off Show Enough's team because this is my boy. I like this team though. All right, so we have Carson Wentz, Leonard Fournette, Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, Jarvis Landry. I just lost my place. Press back button. Sorry, guys. Okay, Austin Hooper, Curtis Samuel, Kalen Balazs, Josh Allen, Chris Thompson, Duke Johnson, Naeem Hines, James Washington, and Jack Doyle. For me, I love your starters. You got Wentz, Fournette, and Kerryon. Love those. Love that 3. But then you got Hopkins, Kupp, and Landry. That's awesome. I love that. Austin Hooper, is a tight end that I've been touting. I said that, I like Austin Hooper as a top 12 guy. I think he's definitely finishing in there. So, I like that you got him. I love Curtis Samuel this year. I think he has like a lot of upside this year. A guy that I definitely would be super happy with as in my flex. Kalen Ballage is a guy that is going to get run in the beginning of the season because I don't think that Drake is going to be ready for week 1. So if he gets a week or two of being the starting running back and he takes that job, it's possible. We could see either a 50-50 split or, whatever. But I really like that. Josh Allen as your backup quarterback, love it. Chris Thompson, like we and Kev said, is going to be a high upside guy as long as he's healthy because he catches the ball a lot out of the backfield. Duke Johnson, another guy, catches the ball a lot out of the backfield, and I think the Texans brought him in for a specific reason. They wanted that dynamic in their offense, and he's going to bring that 100%. Nyheim Hines, guy we just talked about, going to catch the ball out of the backfield regardless to whether Mac is injured or healthy. James Washington, Kev just mentioned, James Washington, could have a lot of upside this year. I think if you noticed that they have not been playing Dante Moncrief, and it's because he is the 100% starter. I think that's why you haven't seen Dante Moncrief in these preseason games. And then Jack Doyle is a guy that I love. I think he could be a top, 8 tight end. I really do. So I love this team. Damn, dog. This is my boy, so I kind of feel weird giving him an A because I normally don't ever give A's, but this is an A. This is an A team. This is I would say A minus. This is an A minus team. This is definitely an A. I can't give this team a B.
Yeah, I'm right with you. We're all high on Carry-On. Fournette to me is a really solid number 2. Hopkins I love. Cup I love. Landry and PPR I love. Your wide receivers are awesome. I like that you got Ballage because Ballage, could be the starter early on, and Duke Johnson and Curtis Samuel. Duke, I think he took a little early for my taste, but Duke could wind up taking over that starting job as well. But we've been preaching about Curtis Samuel. I like him. James Washington, I think that kid can be really good. He's shown really good things in preseason. Nyheim Hines is going to be a PPR machine, as is Chris Thompson. Josh Allen looked really good the other day. If that continues, he's a great backup. And Jack Doyle could really be a solid tight end. You have Austin Hooper. I think you'll be starting Jack Doyle more than you're starting Hooper. So, for me, yeah, I would go. I'm going A minus because I really love this team. Wentz. We all love Wentz. So, yep, A minus.
Yep.
On hiatus, he's got Cam Newton, Le'Veon Bell, Nick Chubb. This Le'Veon Bell, Nick Chubb stuff, God. Robert Woods, Tyler Boyd, Mike Williams,
you guys
George
are sucking
Kittle,
up to us. That's all you're doing.
Royce Freeman, Jalen Samuels, Anthony Miller, Darwin Thompson, Kirk Cousins, Mark Andrews, Preston Williams, and John Ross. So, all right. Cam, I'm a little nervous on him, but I do know that his upside is incredible. I am not a fan of Le'Veon Bell in the first because of his schedule to start the season, and I'm not a fan of drafting Nick Chubb. But I do think the Le'Veon Bell-Nick Chubb combo is really good just because Bell starts off the season really tough, and Chubb's going to get all the work in Cleveland. And then, whatever happens with Kareem Hunt when he comes back, by that time Le'Veon Bell's schedule will have worked out to where now he is in his favor. And, they basically could balance each other out to me, where Chubb is like a top 5 running back for the first half of the year, and then Bell for the second half of the year is the top 5. I really like Robert Woods. He's your number 1. Usually you would have him at number 2, but getting Kittle, really Robert Woods is a solid number 1 receiver when you solidified your tight end position. I think Tyler Boyd has a ton of upside this year. And, if they bring that Rams system over, I've been saying, that slot receiver gets a lot of the red zone work. Mike Williams is a good shot to take. As your third receiver, you can't argue with Mike Williams. And if Keenan Allen starts off the season a little rusty, no Melvin Gordon, Mike Williams could see a lot of work. Royce Freeman, Jalen Samuels, they're both kind of backup players, I think, right now. Royce Freeman tonight, I think, was working with the second team a little bit. Jalen Samuels was working the second team in Pittsburgh. But, Darwin Thompson, same thing. He's kind of a backup. Anthony Miller, I do like, although I believe he got hurt. Didn't he get hurt in week 1? Was anything serious?
Anthony Miller, he got banged up in the preseason game, but I don't think it was anything serious. I haven't read anything saying that it was serious.
Yeah. I do like getting Kirk Cousins. If you're going to draft a backup behind Cam, I think Kirk Cousins is a good one because I think Kirk's floor is high for where he's being drafted. I don't think, I think Kirk's going to put up good, pretty good numbers. Mark Andrews, I think, is a good, shot to take. I wouldn't back Kittle up. For me, I'd rather take another position player. I've watched Preston Williams now in the preseason, and to me, this guy looks really, really good. And John Ross, I don't know why you wasted your time.
I agree. That was a waste of a pick. But all in all, I do like this team. I'm going to give this team a B+ because I think you have enough wide receivers that out of those guys you could find 2 good guys to play. And then if Royce Freeman is used as much as we have been kind of saying, it's going to be a 50-50 split there. If he's the goal line guy there, I think you could be starting him sometimes. Kirk Cousins I like as a backup. Cam I think is got top 5 upside. Definitely, he as long as he stays healthy, he does. This is a 4-point per passing touchdown league, so Cam is always a threat in those leagues. Kittle is a top 3 tight end. Actually, I'm just going to give you a B. I'm not going to give you a B+. Only because
I was going to say, I was actually going to go B- because for me, there's just not enough depth. Royce Freeman and Jalen Samuels, if those guys aren't getting enough work, there's nobody you can really throw into those flex spots from your bench. I mean, Anthony Miller is okay, but me,
Preston Williams might not even be a starter. He's looked great in the preseason, but we haven't heard anything about him being the starter there.
And you're never going to start John Ross.
Yeah, no.
Mark Andrews, I mean, who knows? Mark Andrews hasn't even been playing with the starters that much. I mean, Nick Boyles, I think, got most of the work because he's probably the best of the blockers. And Hayden Hurst has gotten a lot more first-team work than Mark Andrews. So
that's actually been making me a little bit nervous. He's not on the field all the time.
Yeah, Mark Andrews, to me, is almost a guy that is undraftable right now because you don't know how the Ravens plan to use him. Yeah. So to me, I would go B-. Me, actually, I'm going to go C+ because you just don't have enough depth. And I love your start, like your 3 wide receivers and your 2 running backs, and how you work that out with drafting Kittle and Cam. But you definitely needed upgrades at your flex positions.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like your bench, but I do like your starters. I like Cam, I like Bell, I like Chubb. For me, Kev said it. I mean, I think Nick Chubb, I've moved him way up in my ranks. He's like my number 6 running back. So I moved him way up my ranks. I really like Chubb. So, yeah, I'm going to stay with a B. I'm not going to give you any less than a B because I do like your running backs and I do like, your 3 wide receivers with Kittle. I think the Kittle makes that a much different outlook. All right. So we got
over your team. There you go.
Yeah, we'll do this real quick. We're just going to give a real quick read of it and then what we think.
Okay, go ahead. Just read them out.
All right, so Luck, Elliott, McCoy, Juju Smith-Schuster, T.Y. Hilton, Brandon Cooks, Hunter Henry, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, Nick Foles, Devin Singletary, John Brown, Torrey Smith. Traquan Smith. I'm sorry, Traquan Smith. N'Keal Harry, and Jordan Reed. So for me, literally every quarterback was taken in this league. I ended up having to take Nick Foles just in case Luck doesn't play week 1. But for me, I'm going to give my team a B minus, just because we have no idea what's going on with Elliott, and I think my bench is just okay.
Yeah, I like the McCoy Singletary. I like how you backed up McCoy. You know, you do got Kenyon Drake. We don't know what's going on with him for week 1. I think Luck's going to be fine. Looking at it now, I was a little nervous last week, but the guy's already practiced, warming up and working out. They had him doing lateral drills and stuff, before the game started. So I think Luck will be fine, honestly. Zeke is a really big risk. We talked about that. Who knows what's going to happen there? Juju, I think Juju's going to be perfectly fine. He's going to be a PPR machine, but your other 2 receivers aren't really the biggest PPR guys. Hunter Henry, I think you got good value on, so I'm not going to knock you, although I'm not a big Hunter Henry believer. But I do like your bench. I like N'Keal Harry. I don't know how useful he's going to be, but in the 11th round, it's a good flyer to take. I do think John Brown could be good this year. A lot of good things coming up about him. I think Jordan Reed, getting Hunter Henry, I think you did a great job backing him up with Jordan Reed, because if Jordan Reed's healthy, he is always productive. Traquan Smith and Nick Foles, blah. So, I'll go with a B. I think Miles is going to be good. I think Miles Sanders is going to be good right off the rip, but your team is going to be kind of hard to grade, because it's based on Elliott, and if Elliott don't come in, your team is going into the crapper unless you make a lot of moves.
You ain't lying. All right, so we'll go with Kev's team.
I'm going to say, I think I'm next. They have me first on here because it's my team, but I got Jameis Winston at quarterback, Todd Gurley, Dalvin Cook at running back. I got Christian Kirk, Will Fuller, Marvin Jones as my receivers. I got Zach Ertz at tight end. Mark Ingram and Tevin Coleman are my flexes. Sammy Watkins, Sean Jackson, Matt Breida, Adam Humphries, Dontrell Hilliard, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I really like my team. I don't have the greatest wide receiving core. I really went heavy at running back. Obviously, I took 4 running backs, knowing that I could start, all 4 of them. And I also took my tight end there. I'm really high on Winston. I think Winston could be a top 8 quarterback this year. I took a shit ton of receivers that, have PPR value. So Christian Kirk's got PPR value. Adam Humphries is another guy with PPR value. I guess I really didn't take that many with PPR now that I look at it. But Will Fuller, I think, has good upside this year if he stays healthy. Marvin Jones, you guys know how high I am on him. And, I got Deshaun Jackson, got Sammy Watkins. All these guys could have good years. I really like the way my team played out. I'll give it a B+.
Yeah, I agree. I like this team. Jameis Winston, I think, is really your biggest question mark, because I love your wide receivers. I think Will Fuller is got a lot of upside. Kristen Kirk, same thing. Marvin Jones, I'm not high on. You're a lot higher on him than I am. But with Sammy Watkins and Deshaun Jackson, you're going to have guys to replace that with. Adam Humphries, we saw how much he was being used in the preseason so far. He's just been completely pelted by Marcus Mariota. So he might end up being your 3rd wide receiver for all we know. He has Hunter catch upside. They're going to target him that way.
For real.
For real. So, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, you guys already know, I think late in the draft, if you take J.J. as your last pick, that's great, because I do think he could take that role as the big slot in Philly, and, I want every piece of that passing offense. Matt Breida, we talked about him. Hilliard, I think, could be very good until Hunt gets back. And then, Zach Ertz, Mark Ingram, Tevin Coleman as your flexes is great. So, I definitely am I'm going to give you, if I liked Winston just a little bit better, I would definitely give you an A-, but I'll give you a B+.
All right, so on to the next one. It is DW Lions 4818.
Oh, I'm blasting you, dog.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm blasting you, dog.
Round 1, fight.
DW, love you for being in the league, bro, but I will never do a slow draft with you again. That was literally, you were the worst of all the people drafted. You literally took every second of your time. I think you even timed out like once, but regardless, you took a long time to draft. But I do like your team, so let's go over your team. We got Patrick Mahomes, Chris Carson, Sony Michel, Michael Thomas, Odell Beckham, Dante Pettis, Evan Ingram, Eric Ebron, Peyton Barber, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. You took three quarterbacks. I mean, three quarterbacks because I don't know. I think you said that you thought it was the super flex. Anderson, Pollard, Isabella, Olsen. I can't stand your bench. Your bench is terrible, but your starters are great. I love your starter. I don't like that you got Eric Ebron in your starting lineup, so that hurts you a little bit. And you got Greg Olsen. You took 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends. And I'm pretty sure in the middle of the draft we told you that it wasn't 3 quarterback, and you still continued to draft quarterbacks.
He drafted Kyler Murray
after we told you that it wasn't. So I am going to knock you for that, because we 100% said Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes were, whatever. But then you went and took Kyler Murray after we told you. And you actually replied. So I'm knocking you for that. Normally this team would probably be close to an A for me because I just love your wide receivers. I love that you got Michael Thomas. Love that you got Odell Beckham. Chris Carson and Sony Michel are 2 solid guys. When you have those 2 wide receivers, you got the best quarterback in fantasy football. Dante Pettis is trending down, but I still think he could end up being the number 1 guy there. So, that is what it is. And then Evan Ingram is a great tight end. Peyton Barber I like, but your bench is terrible. So I'm going to give you a B.
Yeah, I am going to go B as well. I'll tell you, after the 7th round, I do not like your team at all. Once the 7th round hit, you got Evan Ingram on the steal of life for me. Like, Evan Ingram in the late 7th is, for how important the tight end position and how good I think Evan Ingram really is, for you to get him in the late 7th round it really is a steal. But I am not high on Dante Pettis for the reason of Steve said he's just trending down, not good things coming out about him. Peyton Barber didn't look bad in the preseason, but just not a guy I'm excited about drafting. Eric Ebron, I think, is going to regress this year. You took 2 quarterbacks. C.J. Anderson, is to me not worth drafting if you don't have carry-on. Greg Olsen, and why did you draft a 3rd tight end? Tony Pollard, I do like you getting in the 14th because he could potentially start until Zeke comes back. But if he don't start, he's worthless on your bench. Andy Isabella, I do like shaking the shot on, but yeah, I'm going to go with a B- just because I don't think he really did a good job on his team after round 7.
Yeah. So you want to read Dan's team? Or you want
we'll get into Dan's team. And Dan's team started off to me so good.
I know.
Then downhill really quick.
Really quick.
All right, so he's got Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Marlon Mack and Ronald Jones are his running backs. He's got Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Stephon Diggs. He's got David Njoku as his tight end. Alshon Jeffrey, Geronimo Allison are his flexes. He's got Damian Harris, Carlos Hyde, Deion Lewis, Paris Campbell, Tom Brady, and Jerick McKinnon. All right, so he started off and got Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Stephon Diggs. And we were like, wow, that receiving core is great. And then he came around and somehow wound up getting Marlon Mack in the 4th round. And then he gets Jeffrey. His receivers were ridiculous. I do like getting Watson, but Ronald Jones is your number. Like your number 2 running backs are, who knows who you're going to throw out there. You got maybe Deion Lewis. I think. Huh?
You don't got nobody to throw out there, dog.
Maybe Deion Lewis might be the best option, but
bro, Carlos Hyde is getting cut.
Carlos Hyde is going to get cut. Damian Harris, he's got a broken wrist or a wrist injury. He's not really working with the first team. McKinnon's on the injured list, or he's going to, he's not really ready to start the season apparently. Ronald Jones, we think he might be the backup. He looks like he's the backup. Peyton Barber's running with the starters. David Njoku is somebody who's just been going downhill. He showed up apparently out of shape and hasn't had a good attitude in camp. And there's just so many targets around there. He's basically a touchdown or bust tight end. I like Geronimo. I think Geronimo's a good, 8th round receiver guy and to grab in that area. But man, like your team started off so good, Dan, and then after like once you took Ronald Jones, it was all downhill after that. So
yeah, and that's the thing. You took Ronald Jones before Peyton Barber. We kind of been talking about how he's not the guy there, so I don't really understand that pick. But anyway, I love your wide receivers. I mean, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Stephon Diggs, those 3 could carry you, but they can't carry you if you don't have number 2 running back. You know what I mean?
Could have got Jordan Howard in the 8th round, or Jordan Howard instead of when you drafted Ronald Jones. Jordan Howard was still there.
Yeah, I would have got that better.
Could have got Kalen Balazs, LaShawn McCoy. All those guys were drafted before Ronald Jones, and to me, they all have chances to play a lot more than Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones just don't look good at all to me.
No, but I think his wide receivers could carry his team.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson ends up being really, really good, like we kind of been thinking, and Marlon Mack is going to be a solid number 1, guy when you have these wide receivers, so you're just going to be dire. You're going to be in dire straits as your running back too. You might be getting 0 some weeks for your RB2 position for real. I'm not even kidding. You have nothing. You have nothing. Jared McKinnon, Jared McKinnon might be put on short-term IR. And if that happens, then you really got nothing. Because if Carlos Hyde gets cut and Damian Harris, doesn't see the field all that much, and Deion Lewis is just kind of the scat back there, and they do use Henry the way they're saying they're going to use him, you literally don't have anybody to start. You literally have to throw in Lewis and hope that he gets you 5 points.
Yeah,
that's basically what the deal is.
Which ain't the worst thing in the world when he's got those receivers. But yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go B-. Nah, I'll go B.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I love his receivers.
Yeah,
I think his receivers.
The
only I do not like the tight end at all, and I am not cool with the number 2 running back. But I think the rest of the team is really solid. Bench is not good at all either.
No, your bench is atrocious. But I do like your wide receivers. I think that makes up. That is a Band-Aid on a big wound here.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like that you have these wide receivers because Adams and Jones and Diggs is just great, and I'm not going to grade any team less than a B with those 3 wide receivers.
All right, so no patrol. Matt Ryan, James Conner, Joe Mixon, Julian Edelman, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, TJ Hawkinson, David Montgomery, Lamar Miller, and then on his bench he's got Drew Brees, Kareem Hunt, Alexander Madison, Ben Roethlisberger, Marquise Brown, and Noah Fant.
My man likes the rookie tight ends.
Yeah, he does. So for me, looking at this team, wide receivers are rough. Very rough. I'm not a big fan of DJ Moore. We've been preaching that, and DK Metcalf is, hurt right now, is having knee surgery. And your only other receiver on your team is Marquise Brown, who we're not really sure what we're going to get from Hollywood, especially in the beginning of the year. So that's to me is just that's a knock on your team. TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant. Rookie tight ends just don't do well in the NFL. They not like there's been one top 5 rookie tight end in the last, I think it's like 12 years. Like nobody that comes in as a tight end and really performs that good. And that one tight end was Evan Ingram, I think 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was. Not really the highest on Connor. I do think Mixon is a safe number 2. I like getting Mixon as a safe running back, but Montgomery is kind of what kind of workload is he going to get? Lamar Miller we've beat like a dead horse, and Matt Ryan is on that off year. So
I'm not gonna bash him no more. I'm
we're
done
done
with
with
it. We're
yeah
done with the
we're
Lamar
getting
Miller bashing.
yeah. So I'm gonna go with a B minus because to me, you really need Connor to kind of have that touchdown upside as like last year, and it's not somebody that I've been excited about. So to me, James Conner, he was very very spotty last year. He was very touchdown dependent. He had some games where he had like 20 yards, but he would score 2 touchdowns. I just
Mhm.
don't see that happening this year. Um, Matt Ryan, I'd rather have other quarterbacks than Matt Ryan. If you're going to wait that long on quarterback, just wait and get somebody else to me, because to me, Matt Ryan could, he's got an on and off situation, and this is that off year. And, I do like the offense, but yeah, to me, I'm going to go with a B minus.
Yeah, I just I like your starters, but I don't understand the three quarterback thing. There's multiple teams on here now that have three quarterbacks. You could have filled your team with more depth. You have Kareem Hunt, who is not going to play until after week 8, or after week 9. So week 10 is the first time he'll be eligible to play. Alexander Madison has looked terrible in the preseason, so not a guy that I would take if I don't have, Cook. Um, DK Metcalf, who knows? He could be good, but it sounds to me like he's injured right now, and they're trying to figure that out. Noah Fant, I'm not taking 2 rookie tight ends, back to back. Um, you know, you could have definitely gotten some depth, more depth on your team if you had not taken 3 quarterbacks. Marquise Brown is an unknown because he hasn't really even practiced in full, really, at all yet. DJ Moore I think has upside, but how much upside? We don't know yet. Edelman I think is a solid number 1 when you got the backs that you have. And Matt Ryan makes me nervous this year, but I will give your team I'll give your team a B just because your bench. It would be a B plus if your bench was better, but your bench is just not good. It's just really bad. Like there's nobody on your bench that you're going to take off your bench and put in your starting lineup for a long time. Really, if you look at it, to me, other than the quarterbacks, if you want to play matchups with your quarterbacks, I guess that's kind of what you're doing. But yeah, B.
All right.
And
Why don't you
then
read your father-in-law's team here?
yes, the
You
father-in-law.
bashed him.
I
You bashed
mashed
the
him.
hell out of him.
I mashed the hell out of him, but he did recuperate, going down the stretch because he listened to me a couple times. So he went Jared Goff, Devontae Freeman, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Sterling Shepard, Travis Kelce, Philip Lindsay, Corey Davis, Lamar Miller, Adrian Peterson. Good pick, Dad. Dante Moncrief, Devin Funchess, McLaren, and then Kyle Rudolph. So,
I think it's Lamar Jackson. I think you said Lamar Miller. I could be wrong.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry. It's his backup quarterback. For me, I didn't like that he started off Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. That's not the way I would have started. But I do like this team. I'm not high on Devontae Freeman, not high on, Philip Lindsay, and he took both of those guys probably in rounds that I would not have taken them. But if they pan out, his team is not bad. I think that Sterling Shepard, I like where he got him. Calvin Ridley is a guy that, he has upside, but he makes me nervous this year just because I'm a little bit nervous on anybody that's not Julio on that team, really. Philip Lindsay, I don't think he's going to get the volume of work that he got last year, and that just makes me nervous. I don't know how much volume he's going to get. I definitely think he's going to see a little more volume now that, Riddick is hurt, in the passing game. But, Kyle Rudolph to me is just a really a wasted pick. If I have Kelsey, I'm not even going to draft a tight end. I'm just gonna go ahead and fill up the rest of my team, use the waiver wire to pick up whatever. But, Funchess, Moncrief, Peterson, if Geis is going to start next week, so Peterson might be null and void. I think you waited very long to get your 4th running back, and you ended up having to take Adrian Peterson, which hurts you. But I will give this team. I'll give it a B because I think it's a solid. I think it's a solid core group. And Lamar Jackson, we've already said it has unlimited upside at the quarterback position. So if Goff is just playing okay and Lamar just taking off, then you're good.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a C+. To me, you got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and then you got Freeman and Calvin Ridley. Like, you got two sets of players on the same team. You got Josh Jacobs, who could see a ton of work, but we don't know what we're going to get from Josh Jacobs. He's a rookie. I don't mind him as a second-round pick. I do like Devontae Freeman, but I'd like him a lot better as a number 2 running back. I haven't been as high on Corey Davis, and the 7th round to me is just really high to take him. I think I like Phillip Lindsay more than Steve does. He basically got Phillip Lindsay ended the last pick of the 5th round, which I think is great value because he's a guy basically been going beginning of the 5th, late 4th, so he almost got him a round later. So I like Phillip Lindsay a little more than Steve does. I do like Sterling Shepard. Moncrief, we don't know. Right now, Washington's popping off, more in Pittsburgh. I do like Moncrief as more of a consistent veteran guy, but, we got to wait and see what's going on there. Adrian Peterson, same thing. We got to wait and see. I do love Lamar Jackson. Think Jared Goff, is going to – I think he literally could have 2 guys that finish in the top 10 at quarterback, so maybe he's able to get one of them guys off on a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Not really – I wouldn't have drafted a backup for Kelce. Funches, to me, is terrible. And taking a shot on Terry McLaurin isn't a bad idea, but, yeah, just getting those 2 sets of players on the same team and then Corey Davis, like I said, I'm not a fan of this year, especially in the 7th round. If I'm getting Corey Davis, I'd rather wait till like round 9, So, yeah, for me, I would go C+.
Yep. And that concludes the draft, y'all.
And that is it. So that's it for tonight's podcast. Remember, check us out on our website at www.fourthandinches.ff.com. That's www.4THNINCHESFF.com for a bunch of content, articles, player profiles, blogs, and of course you can subscribe to our draft guide. And until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace.